Everyone, we will start in just a minute. Just give you a second to get settled. Make sure you got some water, popcorn, snacks. It's 10 o'clock straight up and we've still got people filing in, so I'm just gonna give one more 30 seconds or so, then we'll start. Okay, it is a minute or so after 10 o'clock, so let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We are in communicating the network lighting control value proposition class today. My name is Katie, and I will be sort of manning the booth, I guess, while Armando delivers the class. Oops. Okay, and just for a couple of house cleaning items, you all are going to be muted so that we can get through the 2 hours of information that Armando has for you, but we have the chat feature enabled. It's over on your right-hand menu. I think it shows up on the right hand for everybody. So you can submit questions to us, and we will pause during the presentation to answer those questions. Armando's also got some polls to participate in, if you would be so kind. Just a fun little way to break up the presentation. And then after the webinar, there will be a survey. Tell us how you thought we did, any opportunities for improvement, or whether it was the best thing you've ever heard in your life. That's a good thing to tell us too, if it's true. We'll have a recording of this. It's being recorded right now. And the slide deck that Armando is presenting will also be available on our website a day or two after today. There's our email address right there, lightingdesignlab@seattle.gov. You can talk to us through there after the website or after the presentation, or anytime you want. And just a reminder, we are Lighting Design Lab, powered by Seattle City Light. We are Seattle City Light employees and are committed to the customers that allow us to do the work that we do. We also have an event-specific sponsor. Today, we are sponsored by Better Bricks, delivered by Nia. We'd like to recognize and thank the members of the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance for their support on this. They're funding today's online event as a part of the regional Lunera level lighting controls initiative. And just a reminder, Lunera level lighting controls are a network lighting control. They've done a lot of great work building market awareness around Lunera level lighting controls. And if you want to learn more about LLLC and some of the existing resources that support the market, click this link when we get the document up on our website, and check out what they've got available on their Better Bricks website. And just a quick overview of what the LDL does. We work with lots of different stakeholders in the sort of broad lighting design industry, end use customers, trade allies, and design allies. We can't leave anybody out, or we can't help drive successful market transformation. And beyond delivering classes, we've got 3 other core service areas. We do some technology evaluation. A couple emails ago, if you belong to our email list, you might have seen a link to a parking lot lighting and controls project we did in Rainier Beach here in Seattle. We have some tools and resources that we help create, and we do information aggregation. If you participated in the If Light Fair would have been a presentation that Armando was also a part of, that's an example of information aggregation that we do for our stakeholders. And with that, we'll let him introduce himself. Armando, one of the Lighting Design Lab's employees. He's our technical development supervisor and today's presenter.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Katie, and thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Very excited for this webinar. It's going to be an awesome, action-packed 2 hours. A little bit about myself. I have some business, software, and engineering schooling. Took a deep dive on the lighting industry, working for Lutron in a couple of different positions across the time. So it's a good dive into both lighting and controls. Then I worked for a couple of years for a Lutron, and then a partner, wearing pretty much every different hat in the lighting implementation for a retrofit market in the Northeast. And for the last 2 years, I've been working as a technical development supervisor at Lighting Lab, part of the energy utility industry, promoting best practices and emerging technologies around connected lighting. And it's been very, very much fun. But hey, about me, wanted to ensure that our polling works very well, and I wanted to hear a little bit about who all is on call. So I'm gonna launch a poll. I asked that, hey, we please participate, and launch. Which role which more closely resembles your role? So please, want to encourage audience participation. It should be more value to you the more engaged you are. So again, please participate in all the polls, as well as Katie mentioned, the chat feature will allow you to ask questions. So please feel free to use those as you see fit. Getting a good amount of votes in. I'm gonna wait for another 5-10 more seconds. All right, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna share. Appreciate the investment our utility partners are making in here. Thank you for joining us. And I see a couple of other professional role demographics in there, so great. Thank you for participating. Thank you for letting me know this works. And we begin. Wanted to set the stage a little bit and a little bit of my own disclaimers. The handout, so this slide deck will set as a PDF handout. It's going to have a lot of live links to good resources, websites, such as the NEO one that Katie mentioned earlier. So please, I encourage you to download it and check the links out. Got some good resources. This webinar, to an extent, is based from one of our network lighting controls best practice guides, the one that noted communicating the value proposition. We last year developed a series of best practice guides alongside NEA, BPA, Northwest partner utilities. The content was great to make it into a class, and here we are. Couple of other, and I'll be referring to these LLLC network lighting control guides throughout the presentation, so you'll see how we can help leverage them. I'll tell a couple of really bad jokes, hopefully lighten the mood, so bear with me. And lastly, I'll use manufacturer-specific product system. And I just want to call out, this is not necessarily an endorsement, and if unfortunately it's viewed in a negative light, it's not a shot. It's simply a live example of the emerging technologies that we are talking about today. First, I wanted to get us on the same page about some of the terms that we're going to be using. So when we're referring to lighting controls or advanced lighting controls, network lighting controls, we are referring to network lighting controls. And when I mean every system, every device has an IP address, part of a client network, that is not what we're talking about. When we say network, we just mean, hey, it communicates, the different components of the system communicate amongst us or communicate with other systems. That's what we mean when we say in network. LLLC, Katie mentioned it a little bit before, luminaire level lighting controls. These are what you're known as your integrated fixtures or your smart fixtures, and we're going to go into detail in them a little bit later today, so I'm not going to say more than that just now. When we refer to connected lighting, is that intersection between the LED lamp or fixture technology paired with network lighting controls. Also can be looked at or perceived as smart lighting. When we talk about NEBs, we're talking about non-energy benefits. So these benefits that are not directly related to energy savings on a control system, but more so value add. And some of the emerging technologies we'll be discussing today directly impact this. And when we talked about smart buildings or the smart building ecosystem, that's SB. Trying to really get us started by calling on the IES's Light and Design Applications magazine, their emerging markets report. It's a report that they published in January, calling out a couple of different areas of lighting. One was smart lighting, one was horticultural lighting. And I really like this quote stating, lighting can offer more, the theme of the industry marching towards. Yeah, lighting nowadays is a lot more than just illumination. We are solving problems beyond what the lighting decision makers usually have on their scope. And we're seeing a disconnect. Be it both sides on the implementers, installers, contractors, or decision makers and different stakeholders that are focusing a lot more on cost rather than the built environment, rather than the longevity of the system. When you focus sometimes on cost, and, hey, what you want to do is implement TLEDs on a project, you develop some sort of a tunnel vision where the result is leading systems to be value engineered, diminishing, hey, lower cost solution, lower cost solution, lower cost solution. So no real delivered value. And at the same time, you have other involved in the process, such as your designers or architects, specifiers saying, hey, I can't remember the last time I did not spec a connected system. Or you'll have your savvy facility professional or end user, hey, I need dashboard, something I can control rather than having to run around the building. So why the disconnect? Having a little bit of feedback on the mic. Let's see if we can do something real quick to get the audio quality just right. I just reset my audio connection. All right, thinking it should be a lot better, and if not, I am going to go get a wired headset just to make sure we're all right. All right, everybody. Sorry for the interruptions and thanks again for the feedback. Important part is here that we all have a good experience and we can adapt on the fly. I saw a suggestion. Hey, wired headset. Hey, we'll make it work. So again, thank you for bearing with me. And I'm seeing some feedback. Hey, much better audio. Thank you. So hey, you're engaged and you're participating. So thank you guys. Going back into it. Hey, let's keep talking a little bit about that disconnect. The odds have been stacked against network lighting controls ever since the beginning. Uh, Decision makers and implementers have had their share of bad experiences. And unfortunately, that's been impacting how people perceive network lighting controls today. Why is that? Hey, there have been those bad experiences where you almost have to press Morse code in order to program your smart wall stations. Uh, that is even this image of the sensor is even very forgiving because it's very difficult to get in the ceiling and manipulate the dip switches on below or behind sensors. And even when wireless technology that was going to allow people to just program everything through their phone came out, expecting that user experience to be oh so much the better, sometimes the communication wasn't all there. Sometimes the protocol wasn't tested robustly enough, and there were issues with that communication as well. And even though, hey, we've developed these very smart sensors, some that have both occupancy and daylight features together, uh, if the occupancy sensing, you still have to do your perfect dance to get the lights to not shut off on you, or if summer turns to winter and the daylight sensor is making the lights either too bright or way too dim, people resort to the very technological cup. Hey, we're going to cover the sensors and just put the lights on where we want them to be, defeating the purpose of that network lighting control system. So yes, different decision makers definitely have their bad experiences. And what we need to do is ensure that we communicate what the difference is today. Uh, After 15, 20 years of development testing, network lighting controls are a lot smoother than they were years ago. And yes, there's a long way to go. But today, they're a lot more capable and less complicated. They're less costly. They're scalable. They're very interoperable. And last but not least, there's a lot of features that not only save energy, but add a lot of value to the built environment. What we're going to be talking about today are some of those features and how to curtail the information to the appropriate stakeholder. Staying on these features, LEDs magazine released a 2020 State of the Industry survey, and a question caught an eye. I kind of redacted the question a little bit because it was a longer paragraph, but basically is, hey, how likely are you to leverage network lighting controls, non-energy benefits as a secondary business opportunity? Hey, and you see it's about a 70% very likely or somewhat likely that implementers are thinking, or even building owners are thinking of leveraging network lighting controls for secondary business opportunities. We're all familiar with a very similar version of this rule, but on a building, on your built environment, you pretty much spend about 1% of your money per square foot on your energy and resources. These are going to be your water, waste, energy, heating, cooling, plug loads. Then 9% of your building's cost per square foot is pretty much on space and layout, and that could be your rent, your overhead, the space efficiency, the workflow, how people go about their individual tasks. 90% of the investment on square foot is going towards employee wellness and productivity, including your acoustic and visual comfort, be it thermal indoor air quality, amenities, measures. And this is the point we want to drive forward. Network lighting control ties directly to how you most invest in your building. And if we can be so bold and make an even different case, you can even get double a return back on revenue and opportunities that create either savings or additional business models.
Network lighting controls can serve a great infrastructure for this. What can be an issue? Yes, network lighting controls, again, a lot more capable, powerful, and simpler. But what can really derail the conversation is if you are just brain dumping all these features to decision makers that they may not necessarily understand, does not affect or impact them in a way. So the message is, don't be a solution looking for a problem. What we're gonna be focusing on more is, hey, who are the different shareholders, stakeholders that are interested in these systems, and what is the information that is very relevant to them? We're going to be talking about 4 specific types of stakeholders. Obviously, these will have many subtypes, but we're going to focus it on the tenants that live with the system, the facility professionals, building operators that leverage the system, the contractors, installers, people that commission programs. So those are your implementers, and the different owners that invest in this system. And these owners can be anywhere from, hey, the actual group that has purchased the building, all the way to, hey, your vice president of customer satisfaction. So just to recapitulate, what are we talking about today? We are driving the conversation to not just decision makers, but to understand the different stakeholders, their needs, their wants, and how to curtail the information of network lighting controls specifically to them, especially these non-energy benefits and the emerging technologies that these systems are starting to implement. Lastly, highlighting different resources we can leverage to further simplify the message. Before we go on, I wanted to see if there's any questions right before we jump into this. Katie, anything on the docket?
Nope, we don't have any right now.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. So keeping on the theme, we're talking about beyond decision makers. What's your typical decision maker? That's the person that will approve the budget to get the project to go along. So, hey, if we want to have a conversation beyond this, what do we do? Wanted to start again with an article from the IES's LD+A magazine called "Are You My Customer?" That's a very long quote, and I don't want to read it to you, but I thought it was so appropriate. I'll leave it there if you ever download the handout. But long story short, it's more so a case on a healthcare space, considering different non-energy benefits like asset tracking and space utilization. And the idea is, hey, the stakeholders are not your typical lighting decision makers. You know, I highlighted them, hey, the stakeholders that would really be impacted by NLC features, hey, director of compliance, vice president of patient care, customer satisfaction, you know, not the typical entity that a lighting professional is interfacing with. So again, that was a little bit of that highlight on decision makers versus stakeholders, because the decision makers will approve the budget, will approve the project going forward, but ultimately may not have all the pieces of the puzzle. The difference, and on the right hand side, you'll see a couple of examples, but hey, from these different groups, interested parties, again, if we're referring to interested parties, we can talk about what that case study from the previous slide was mentioning, hey, the director of customer satisfaction, inventory managers, user groups can be seen such as, hey, your teachers, your nurses, people that interface with your systems. And all these groups can either be recommenders for the systems to influence that, influencers to the actual decision makers, or gatekeepers in the sense that, hey, we don't want overt complexity, or we don't necessarily want all of this technology on our network. But again, the real key to implementing these NLC non-energy benefits are to work with the different stakeholders that want to get that buy-in for the system. I have a personal example. When I worked in the retrofit market in the Northeast, I was going to do a pilot, a smart TLED pilot in a floor of a classroom building for NYU in 2017. It looked like a great pilot. We were going to get the free smart lightings, wall sensors, ceiling sensors from Lunera. So, hey, the decision makers for this pilot were very happy because if the pilot went well, we were going to implement their system throughout the entire building. It just so happened that the way the system worked, each T8 smart lamp required an IP address in the client's network. Right before we were going to get approved to start installing, purchase the gear and installing, the IT department understood the requirements, the network requirements for the system, and they were very quick to say, we are not going to allow the system to be implemented. We don't want to support having each lamp in the system in a pilot, let alone the entire building on our network. So again, putting that emphasis on ensuring that your stakeholders are brought in early and have that buy-in from them. We're going to go a little bit just more in detail from each of the stakeholder types that we have identified. So starting with tenants, these can be your typical group of, again, I mentioned teachers, I've mentioned nurses, these can be your office workers, anyone that interfaces with that system has to live with the system in that built environment. So basically having more resources to them, having more streamlined workflow and space flow is such a big deal for the tenants. And I learned, for example, I worked with Dartmouth College's chemistry building. The lab professors really called the shots when it came to what systems, hardware, and layout really was implemented in their spaces. Facility for professionals, these people leverage the systems. These will be people that are usually the systems are handed off to. It's like, hey, we just installed and implemented a system. Here's a tablet or computer program or a dashboard so you can do XYZ functionality with the systems being implemented. On the other side of the decision pond, you'll have your contractors, installers, implementers. Again, important piece is that, hey, the systems are very simple to explain to others, to install, to maintain, to commission, to control remotely. You know, contractors, installers are definitely part of that stakeholder because, hey, the system shouldn't only be good to live with, but good to be able to promote and implement in our spaces. Last and definitely not least, the owners that invest in the system. Ultimately, owner types, be it owner representatives, building investors, capital improvement budget, or all the other entities that tie to the purpose of the building. And again, hey, customer satisfaction VP is a good example. If an NLC system can impact the metrics that they're looking at, they are a good stakeholder to talk to make an implementer or a recommender or an influencer for that system. More equally important as knowing the different types of stakeholders is, as we say, right postage, right address, how to curtail the message to that stakeholder. And I've been mentioning, hey, having those conversations of how can this feature, this capability, this system affect the metrics or processes that you look at. When you have these conversations, the real key is to just ask people for their processes, their metrics, what are they focusing on, and keep asking those questions. Ultimately, if you're savvy enough, you end up with a tiered mark of your different stakeholders, what's important to each, how can each work for you, again, as a loyal recommender or influencer, and ensure that you have all this good ammunition to go to that decision maker at the end of the day and say, hey, all these different groups want these features in this system. Let's make sure they come true. And that definitely also helps the battle of value engineering. The real piece of the puzzle for your NLC non-energy benefits are tying in with the purpose of the building. Whether that purpose be, and obviously each building type is going to have a lot of potential purposes you can tie into, whether it be customer satisfaction, whether it be reducing carbon emissions or being green, obviously getting your certificate of occupancy, or be it one of these green building initiatives such as WELL or LEED. And ultimately, hey, you see the shoe store there, if it's a retail space, how to drive sales, how to impact foot traffic. Ultimately, implementers have that role of being that subject matter expert that can foster a relationship of continuous improvement. And what does that mean? Today's network lighting control systems, and I want to focus on more so your mid-scale lighting control systems. By that I mean it's not the large panel and wired throughout the entire building, and it's also not the one room system controlled by a couple of sensors and wall stations, but usually wireless or a mix of wired and wireless and scalable. It can be a system that can work great on one room, an entire building, an entire campus. And what happens with most of these NLC systems today is that they set up an infrastructure. Hey, you'll have your gateways or hubs, you'll have your smart sensors and devices throughout the ceiling and the walls and the space. A lot of the non-energy benefits are features that we call, hey, we can just flip the switch. The gateway and smart devices are there. We can flip the switch. And that's when I'm talking about that relationship that you build on with the building owners, with the implementers, and all the stakeholders involved. Implement the right infrastructure, and when the time is right, flip the switch on those features that will really impact that building goal. I know I threw in a lot at you guys. Pause for some questions.
Yep, we have a couple from Lynn Alder. A little bit long. NLCs provide benefits beyond lighting, but it seems lighting salespeople haven't figured out how to sell those benefits to the right decision makers. So who then is the right type of salesperson, and how can we connect them to the lighting installers? That's part one. Do you want to take that, or do you want part two?
Yeah, no, I see part two. Let's do a quick stop there. Thanks again, Lynn Adler. So that part one, and that's how lighting professionals can really either differentiate themselves if they themselves take on, hey, I want to develop an expertise to work with smart office building or smart hospital buildings, learn the operations, and be able to have those conversations with the decision makers and open the doors to talk to the different stakeholders. So that can be taken onto yourself or your lighting company, whatever the case may be. But the other side of the coin is, hey, if that lift is too much of an effort, hey, you can leverage the expertise of business consultants that work in the industries that you want to penetrate with your network lighting control system. And again, we'll be talking a little bit later about what different types of entities you can leverage to help drive this message home, but it doesn't necessarily all need to be on your own. It can definitely be a team effort. What was that other part of the question, Katie?
The second part was also, what role can, should, and do network lighting control manufacturer reps play in convincing customers to add NLCs to their lighting project?
Thank you, and I'm actually going to put a pin on that one. I have a slide later on that is literally the only thing I'll talk about. So I'll have a mental note that I want to go a little bit more descriptive in that slide, and if I don't answer the question to your satisfaction, we'll either address it or chat offline. But thank you again for the questions, and encouraging others to please also type them out. Before we go on to our next section, I wanted to do one more poll about stakeholders and seeing how you feel on different topics. So please, if you can participate, do so. Select all these statements that you agree with. Is it too tough to chat with all the different stakeholder types? Are tenants a key part of the decision? Is it easy or tough to get buy-in from the different owner types? Do implementers only care about making a sale? So just kind of to wage where you think industry is in, it should be interesting. And I see not yet at halfway there, so if we can encourage a little bit more audience participation, that would be great. Oh, I see more votes are coming in, so thank you guys. Gonna give it about 10 more seconds. All right, and I thank you, Greg Evans, Armando. You're like Jimmy Fallon. I love it. Let's see the solutions. I mean, the results right here. So pretty even spread. And I can see, hey, it's tough to get a buy-in from the different owner types. Good to hear. A couple of sections, we'll be talking about specific non-energy benefit features and how they're important for each stakeholder, and maybe, hey, some ideas that we can help communicate through there. All right, I think we're back. So this is not a savings-centric webinar, but it is part of the network lighting control value proposition. So let's have a quick review on this. Where do savings come from? Well, when a mommy power and a daddy time love each other very much, probably should not finish that bad joke, but hey, energy is that combination of using power over a period of time, and we're measuring it over kilowatt hours. So when you're converting legacy technologies, your fluorescents, metal halides to LEDs, you're greatly reducing that, by maybe 50, even 75% in most cases. When you add network lighting control systems, you do a little bit of both. You definitely reduce the wattage with strategies such as personal control or high-end trim, what we're going to review in a moment right now, but you'll more so impact the system by reducing those operating hours, turning off lights when people are not in rooms, or leveraging natural light. And ultimately, what really is the most powerful tool when it comes to savings is interoperability, tying in your phantom loads, your plug loads, tying in the different HVAC set points. So again, network lighting controls can serve to be that infrastructure to combine savings. Wanted to review a couple of these key control strategies and how they impact savings themselves. Again, from our 2019 NLC Best Practices Guide series, we're leveraging a couple of images, and we do have that information on specific control strategies. But as a quick review, high-end trim, also known as task tuning, is the ability to put a ceiling on the maximum output of a fixture or group of fixtures, automatically reducing wattage. The real reason it exists is because for right reasons, designers or specifiers will be conservative in speccing the lumen output of fixtures, not knowing if the walls are going to be all black or if there's going to be fixtures that are decommissioned. So to right size that illumination to ensure that you have the proper foot candles for your task surface, you use that high-end trim to not glare all your tenants and not use more light than needed in a space. Occupancy vacancy, the ability to turn lights on if there's someone in the room or turn them off automatically if there is no one there. Again, all guilty of leaving a space and never turning off your lights. Sensors can really help there, and see a little image below on how the savings look like. Daylight harvesting. Hey, if I need to have 30 foot candles on my surface and natural light that's by the window gets me 80% of the way there, then I'll only need to use 20% of my electric light to get to the right foot candles, evading glare, saving energy, and also, scheduling, ensuring that lights are on and off, even if there's no one there, be it for safety reasons, egress, if there's an event, automatically. And not just saves energy, but it automates that built environment as facility professionals can leverage lighting control systems. The real power, again, is when all these strategies work together. Hey, couple more strategies. Personal control not just saves energy, but will allow your tenants to use the right light for them for their task. And people will have very different individual preferences. Doing a lighting audit here in one of our Seattle's park buildings, I entered a room where the light was completely off, and there were 3 workers in their computers, and that was their preference. And it blew my mind, but hey, it happens. But again, as mentioned before, a combination of multiple strategies and even beyond the lighting systems are what really drive the savings forward. So again, hey, very quick review on savings, but wanted to see if there's any questions. Thank you, Eric, for the comment. No other questions, right, Katie?
No, I don't have any others right now.
Great. Well, let's talk about some of these emerging technologies that can serve as these non-energy benefits from network lighting controls. Key quote in the show Mad Men by Don Draper: "Hey, what you call love was invented by guys like me to sell nylons." It's like, hey, but part of it is, again, right message to the right person. And this is what we'll be talking about. The smart building platforms are evolving. There's a lot of infrastructures, there's a lot of platforms for smart buildings to leverage different features. But as these platforms continue to evolve, the complexity increases. What do we want? How do network lighting controls necessarily solve this problem? Hey, there's power in the ceiling. There are smart devices in the ceiling. Let's leverage them as an infrastructure for all these features that we can use. Because hey, you see, at the very least, I have like 4 different companies that have 4 different systems, and some of these, hey, space utilization, asset tracking, features that NLC systems can all do themselves. What happens? Hey, when you think facility professionals, hey, there's a learning curve for learning multiple systems. Why have to deal with all these different types of factory representatives if you can aggregate and streamline these into one system? Owners, are they overly investing in infrastructure? Do you have cameras for space utilization, and then did you also add other sensors that will read RFID tags on your industrial equipment as tracking? Owners don't want to overinvest in infrastructure. The more streamlined it can be, the better. Implementers really will play a key role, being that subject matter expert, leading the integration and interoperability conversations with the other interested parties. And ultimately, tenants want a built environment that improves their quality of life or streamline their operations. I'm focusing a lot on interoperability, tying in with HVAC, plug loads, smart buildings, and that is because the future is connected. I wanted to give you guys an example of the DLC. They are a qualifying body that puts different types of equipment, fixtures, systems on their qualified products list, and iteratively they update the requirements to be on this list. Why the list is important is because, hey, a lot of utilities such as South City Light leverage DLC's qualified product list to identify equipment and systems that they'll incentivize or provide rebates on. What I wanted to highlight in the slides is that, hey, interoperability is starting to be a key focus in the conversations. They'll be asking fixture specs to report any integral control capabilities, the type, They want to focus on that intersection between building management systems and network lighting controls. The next version of the network lighting controls qualified products list relies heavily on interoperability. It's like, hey, integration with external systems, energy monitoring, plus, because it's already been part of the list. Demand response, load shedding, and distributed energy resources, how to manage these, all of these interoperable moving parts in buildings. But hey, quick pause and very important. Did you know the relationship of network lighting controls and luminaire level lighting control? To spell it out, luminaire level lighting controls are a subset of network lighting controls. They're a type of strategy you can implement, and they have a couple of key features where each fixture, each luminaire will be individually addressable and controlled. It can definitely be grouped, and it will be more impactful and efficient when it's grouped. But the fact that it's individually addressable provides a lot of benefits, such as, hey, if there's any type of space renovation, you don't need to go in the ceiling and rewire a ton of fixtures to change the different occupancy groups or daylight groups. It all can be done through quick smartphone. You need to have both integrated occupancy and daylight sensors. So, hey, you know how tough it is to commission daylighting according to code? You need to have a primary daylight zone, a secondary daylight zone, both, vertical daylight fenestrations and your horizontal daylight fenestrations need to be taken account of. It's a lot of geometry as well to know where the daylight zones start and end. So just by the very nature of having that integral daylight sensor, you don't necessarily need to do a lot of wiring calculations, a lot of that geometry that the code will require you to. As I wanted to mention it in this short animation, LLC devices automatically need code. They also need to provide continuous dimming, which, hey, if you're still leveraging bi-level switching, we need to have a separate conversation. And ultimately, they need to be networkable. And again, networkable does not mean part of, devices all have an IP address. Networkable means just communicate. There is an easy way to communicate with this device to reconfigure the settings. A great way to explain this or describe this in an image that, again, also part of our best practice guides from last year are the one-to-many and one-to-one relationships. When you are not using an LLLC configuration, you're using zone control, you'll have one load controller and a set of sensors. You could be, a couple of corner mount sensors, a couple of ceilings, or one sensor for many fixtures. One load controller and a set of sensors for many fixtures. LLLC has that one-to-one relationship. Well, you have one sensor, one load controller in one fixture, so one-to-one. Digging a tiny bit into code, managed to see the 2018 Washington State Code that Governor Inslee stated will be applied November 1st of this year. And hey, we're still waiting on the Seattle Energy Code that should be coming out very shortly as well. But in the code language, it actually even spells word by word the definition that we just talked about. It's like, hey, you see it over there. Features need to be individually addressable. 2.1 talks about occupancy, vacancy, and dimming. 2.2 talks about daylight harvesting, and 2.3 just means, hey, you need to easily configure and reconfigure the settings of each fixture. So again, luminaire level lighting controls, great way to meet code. And again, just even spelled out that way. A good example of how the LLLC methods work together, I see that I may have omitted a C there, but hey, luminaire level lighting controls, quick use space. Hey, think a typical open office, 7 a.m., you have your goody two-shoes workers coming in early, but just via timer or occupancy, all the lights will be on at a background level, just not to hit that user or that office worker entering in the space with a lot of bright lights and glare. Just a good background. But as the workers start coming in that office and fill it in, the lights will be on to a brighter level so they can actually see their desks, their papers. But the other spaces that are still unoccupied are going to remain at that dim background level. It's better for the users, again, less glary, and it saves energy. Same office, or people are leaving, when your desks become unoccupied, those sensors inside the LLC fixture start detecting, hey, the person that usually sits below me is now going home. In a few minutes, I'm gonna dim my lights down to a more just background level, so as to, again, save energy and make it more comfortable for the people that are still in the office. And ultimately, when the last good noodle workers leaves at 6:59, whatever the case may be, PM, yes, the lights can then go off, but once everyone is out of this space. Wanted to poll people here what their experience, if they've worked with lunar level lighting control technology before. I'm going to launch this poll. Please, encouraging participation. You guys have been great so far, especially, hey, thank you guys for letting me know about the audio. But what is your experience? Is it, hey, it's my go-to solution, and every job I'm speccing this, or looking to implement this, or looking to bring this into my buildings, or hey, I'm not sold on it. I just need a lot of more case studies to really understand this technology. So, hey, wanted to get a little bit of where you guys are. So see, we have about 1/3 of the people in here. Bit about halfway, so I'm going to give it 10 more seconds. All right, thank you everybody for participating. I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. Oh, bear with me. And let's share. Hey, so good to note. Most of us are looking at, hey, this is a great strategy to leverage. Good to have in the mix with other types of zone control strategies. Good, we have a couple of Vanguard saying, hey, this is my preferred go-to, so that's great to note. And hey, even smaller but larger groups saying, hey, I'm not necessarily sold on it. And that's great. That's where you're at. What I'm going to encourage is hey, look for the information, look for the use cases, reach out to Lighting Design Lab and other organizations that promote it, and let's have those conversations, see if we can help better promote it for you. So let's start talking about some of these energy and non-energy benefits of network lighting controls. First, wanted to call out energy monitoring, control, and diagnostics. This is a way where you can have live energy use from your system. There's a couple of methods. One's calculated, where the system will just know the wattage of the fixtures or the devices, excuse me, in the space, and by virtue of dimming or turning lights on and off, it will do calculations as to whether your energy levels are. The other method, and I may say the preferred method, is to have a measured way to go about energy monitoring. This is where individual load controllers or the fixtures themselves will know how much wattage it's using or not. Very powerful in the sense of, hey, you think about a building owner that wants to say, we're a good corporate citizen. We are looking to save energy, to reduce our carbon emissions. And I've seen a couple of buildings that will display their energy savings dashboard on their lobbies just to showcase how much energy they save for the people coming into their buildings. when we're talking a little bit more about diagnostics and alerts, facility professionals really leverage this feature by not having to go find a needle in the haystack when a typical tenant says, hey, a fixture went out or a lamp blew in the XYC floor, and no, I don't know which one. I just know that a couple of lights went out. And hey, facility professionals for the longest time have been having to just go out to places, find what's broke, find the light that's out, having to find why the lamp went out. Hey, was it a lamp that is busted? Did the ballast give out? So being able to just have this on just automated and having the information even being sent to facility professionals email automatically as soon as a device is, be it, hey, sensors low on batteries, or a lamp and a ballast started flickering or failing. Great feature to leverage. Tenants, on the other hand, if there's an issue with, be it a sensor, a wall switch, a light going out, it streamlines the way that this is repaired for them and improving their quality of life and just being more satisfied in the place that they're either working or visiting. And implementers, hey, you got to be that subject matter expert that tells you what strategies of energy monitoring, control, diagnostics to implement, and how. Is it right for our building? Is it worth it to integrate an entire campus that you see at the bottom right image? Also, some of the utilities, such as these Wisconsin utilities, are starting to see the power of lighting systems, energy monitoring, and incentivizing the feature to be implemented and being fed reports to that utility so they can have that automated monthly or whatever the period is information from their customers themselves. So hey, good that some utilities are looking at this feature and looking to incentivize it. Let's talk a little bit about indoor positioning, which is leveraging the smart fixtures, your LLLC fixtures, to understand where a user is, be it, hey, by their phone or by a tag, as well as wayfinding. Think about it like a GPS for your car, but it could be a GPS to navigate an office building, a store, a university. I have a little use case here, a study example where a couple of years ago, Acuity Brands worked with Target, and they leveraged Acuity Brands' smart platform called Atrius. What they did in their stores, and I'm calling out, hey, they're talking about IoT lights. That's where we're talking about Lunera level lighting control technology right there. To me, this case study is both a little bit scary and a little bit exciting, but the way they're leveraging their LLLC fixtures are two strong ways. One, imagine going to your store, you have your Target app on your phone, and you have a shopping list. Hey, I'm gonna put the 10 items I want from my shopping list on my phone. And just because the lights know where I am, and the lights will also know the sections or the products that I want to get to, it'll give me a very efficient route to just navigate through the store, pick the items I need, and just be on my way rather than having to search aisle by aisle for what I need like I usually do. Also, if you go into the store and don't have your shopping list, but you do have your Target app in some of these select stores, hey, I'm going around the aisles, and just because the system knows where I am positioned inside the store, it's like, hey, this person is by the fruit aisle. Let's push all the fruit promotions that we have to see if that incentivizes that person to drive to just get some fruit. So owners are really paying attention to this feature because we're talking about the owner types that are interested in foot traffic, driving sales, pushing incentives, you know what I mean? So again, very powerful feature when you combine them. Tenants, again, can shop faster, shop smarter, have all these offers can up to them. And implementers, hey, we talked about three entities here. Hey, Target, your big box retail store. You have your lighting manufacturer, Acuity Brands, your smart platform, Atrius. You navigate that integration conversation. Be it between, hey, your smart lighting platform and your customer developers that will ultimately develop that integration and interoperability to really, again, drive the purpose of that building, which is to drive sales, get foot traffic. Let's talk a little bit about space utilization. What's the real cost of empty space? You know, why have a large office building if your meeting rooms, your brainstorming rooms, your conference rooms are going to be empty? They're not an efficient use of that space. There's been there's been many different studies on, hey, what does it having a desk or a different type of space type in an office building really cost for the year? You know, you don't necessarily want these spaces to be empty, but you want it to be used. And if they're not being used, you want to change your layout into something that's going to be more efficient for your building. Again, and that drives a cost. You know, it's very expensive to have an architectural firm do this space analysis and hey, you know, it's large cost per square foot, large cost for architects and different developers working on this. There are a lot of companies that have their own infrastructure. People can install cameras for their own sensors, but hey, if the lighting system can do this, let's leverage it. Even if you implement a system that can have the space utilization technology, but you don't necessarily want to turn it on as soon as you install the system, you can just leave the infrastructure there and flip the switch whenever it's useful for you. What some of these lighting systems are doing nowadays is you're able to understand a time range and a set of rooms and understand if people were there or not. Again, very powerful, especially looking at the bottom right heat map of how people move and navigate in this space. If you look closely at the heat map, you'll see, for example, hey, these meeting rooms are on the top right are rather empty, or they don't necessarily have that much traffic going through them. But hey, these right there, if you guess what usually is the most occupied room in an office building, it's a restroom. And understanding how people walk in their space is very useful when you want to decide, hey, I want to change the layout so there's more traffic where I want it to be. Let's talk a little bit about demand response. Utilities want to provide power for all of their customers. They want to ensure that, you know, there's no brownouts, no blackouts. But if all their buildings are using a lot, hey, we need to drive. It's winter. Let's drive that HVAC. Let's make the building warm. Let's turn on all the lights. If a lot of customers, building customers, are doing this, you know, there may be a risk of not being enough power to keep the lights on and the power on everywhere. So utilities will call the facility professionals of these buildings. And again, we call it, hey, the traditional operation was called sneaker net. Facility professionals will send an army of technicians to the different electrical closets, turning off the lights and the panels, ultimately rendering the majority of rooms useless in the building because the lights have to go off, and they had to understand the plan for what spaces in their building are going to have to be on just to keep the critical operations going. What happens now with network lighting control systems, this process can be automated. Be it analog, like the right-hand side left-hand system where, hey, a hub or a load controller can receive an analog signal sent, be it by a utility or the facility professional, and implement a curtailed or curated demand response, I'm going to call it. This is really where implementers come in with their subject matter expertise, and they can say, hey, there is no we don't have to render your building unusable, or the spaces have to be unoccupied because we need to implement demand response, or we need to load shed in the building. We can dim the light. Let's say, hey, be it 30% across the board, or an implementer can go room by room and say, hey, this classroom, I'm gonna just, whenever load shed event happens, I'm gonna just decrease the output by 20%. In this gymnasium, I'm gonna decrease it by like 70%. And once that is programmed into the system, it only takes a button push to say, all right, we remember that demand response event that we wanted to implement. Let's just turn it on, and that can be, you know, done in a matter of seconds. But again, hey, it does take a good amount of effort from the implementers to ensure that it gets there. So it is important to showcase that subject matter expertise, understanding what light levels are critical for performing tasks safely, and what spaces don't necessarily need to be turned on. Let's talk a little bit about asset tracking. Big use in industrial spaces, healthcare, but ultimately, what asset is important to you? Let's ensure that you know where it is and ensure that it does not get lost. Asset tracking leverages the smart sensors on the luminaire level lighting control fixtures to read, be it an RFID tag or another point of communication, to understand what a interest asset is and where it is. What you see here is a case study from Pittsburgh healthcare system, is a conglomerate of hospitals, where they recognize that you see on the left-hand side, hey, we're losing about a quarter of our wheelchairs a year. You know, we tracked our labor, time, and wage cost at finding wheelchairs, and this is again not specific to wheelchairs. It could be defibrillators or fire extinguishers. But hey, they're noticing there's a real business cost. These building owners, if we're looking at the stakeholder types as owners, there's a real cost associated with losing and not knowing where our wheelchairs are. So they implemented this system by OSRAM, where hey, the LLLC fixtures could understand where the different wheelchairs are, seriously impacting the time taken by staff looking to find wheelchairs, ensuring that they don't get lost, or if they get lost, it's because they know, oh, the last time we saw this wheelchair was wheeling out of the hospital. We wheeled the patient out, and for some reason we never brought it back in. So real, direct impact to the business end of a hospital. On the other end, tenants don't have to wait for their asset or a wheelchair, and facility professionals can really keep an inventory of the important assets. Hey, room scheduling, the best friend for an introvert's meeting manager. So room scheduling can be done, you can be implemented in a couple of ways. The lighting system can let you know what rooms are occupied or not, and hey, working a little bit with the building operations. If you have be it Outlook calendars is what most people are using when they implement this feature, and they can see live what rooms have meetings, what rooms don't, or what rooms were supposed to have a meeting but no one showed up, so you know that room is empty and you can book the room. Let's say you're right outside of the door waiting to go in for your meeting. Rather than doing your awkward knocks like, hey, are you guys done in there? There are features such as, hey, flashing the lights for like 2-3 quick flashes, 5 or 1 minute before the meeting is supposed to end, just to let the other group file in. If people have temperature settings and you're really integrating in your building, making it a smart building ecosystem, hey, I have a preference for these are my set points for heating and cooling. So when I go into my meeting, I want to make sure that these are the ones that are being called on. Really powerful when you implement room scheduling alongside wayfinding and indoor positioning. Actually, I have a story I want to share. My wife used to work for the Wyndham Worldwide headquarters in New Jersey, and they have a very large campus that is subdivided into, this one building is called Africa, this other building is called China, this other building is called United States, and even so, they have a great way of designating spaces. Like, I was going in United States from the Chicago area to the Philadelphia area and got lost somewhere in, Massachusetts, whatever the case may be. Large campuses are real, and you don't want to have your building visitors being lost. Like I remember trying to pick up my wife that first time I ever went there, and I couldn't find her for about 20 minutes. So it's a real deal. People, again, leveraging Outlook on phone apps. There's different systems that will, again, serve as that GPS for going for point A to point B. And be it a large office campus or the other use case that really makes an impact are universities, where parents come to visit, or when you're a new student and you've no idea where your orientation buildings are. Again, leveraging lighting, not having to implement an entire other infrastructure to help people where to go. Again, saves a lot on cost, streamlines operations in the sense that no multiple factory representatives that you need to have on the phone when you're discussing these features or something's not working right. The fact that it can all be done with a lighting system has you reduces your point of contacts to again ensure that streamlined operation. Let's talk a little bit about Li-Fi and what it is. Hey, we're used to Wi-Fi, and that's the ability to transmit that information going on the internet through radio frequency. Li-Fi provides that same, let's go to the internet or data transmission, but rather than radio frequency, it's through visible light, IR, so the lighting spectrum. Why is that important? The early adopters of Li-Fi technology actually have been the US military, because in a lot of their bases, they have to be obviously ultra secure in the sense of no one can hack into their network. But with Li-Fi, they learn if you're not under the beam of light, you're not going to be able to share data inside of that network. So that security enough is great for them. But there have been other groups that have, and this is an example, the True Li-Fi from Signify has commercialized the technology. And it's a good example in the sense of being able to offer this rather than going to a coffee shop and asking a barista for the network password. You can leverage this Li-Fi technology, get your dongle that's going to get you connected to the internet in a space. So it's another more secure, could be faster, more reliable way of offering your internet connection in a space. And again, it could be used in offices, hotel lobbies, hospital waiting room lobbies, and all your co-work spaces. Hey, don't give me the password, give me the dongle. I built this in on purpose, telling myself, hey, I'm probably rambling, take a pause. Kate, are there any questions?
Yes, there is a question. Do you know of any utility programs that I'm figuring Lynn is asking about incentivizing LLC DR?
Demand response. Great question. Topical questions. And some utilities definitely are. And in the Pacific Northwest, I want to say stay tuned. Stay tuned in the sense that that's where the wind is pointing. There's going to start being a lot of pilots and a lot of research around distributed energy resource management. And can't quote me, but I believe it's coming. Let's enter the space of light and health. The ability to follow your biological circadian rhythm. Go with the sun. It rises or sets in a very warm, dark, yellowish tone. When it's very clear, you're gonna get that very nice white, clear light. And in certain cases, it's gonna be very cool, light blue. And research that is ongoing starts to tell us, hey, this may impact your biological health in a positive way. Rule of thumb is, hey, the warmer, yellower colors will help you relax, calm down, and the cooler, lighter blues are going to help you get energized or concentrate. And the white light is just great for doing tasks that just need to have a good level of contrast. But first, do no harm. Another quote, I'm not going to read it, but I'll leave it there for reference. Part of that LD+A's emerging markets report on light and health, where Mike Thornton, the CMO of Focal Point, says hey, we're in lighting. Our job is to create comfortable architectural environments, not necessarily be doctors and promote health benefits that could actually be risky. The real important thing here is, hey, we want to leverage evidence-based guidance. with that in mind, I wanted to share. I was looking at this study that the Department of Energy, alongside the Pacific Northwest National Labs, did in a school where they took a couple. I believe it was 3 classrooms where they implemented a tunable white LLLC system. If you see in the image at the top right, they had by the teacher's desk that wall controller that you'll see on the bottom left that will control the intensity of the light as well as the color temperature. They would also poll teachers and students how they felt throughout the day for a period of time, and hey, in hopes of getting those evidence-based studies. What they ultimately found was that hey, there was a ton of energy savings. If you look at the bottom right, hey, there's about a 71% savings. Yes, we definitely went from fluorescent to LEDs, but what they noticed on the use of the lighting system was that dimming was a primary benefit. Not necessarily changing the color temperature, although it was a great secondary benefit, but raising or lowering the light was great to really have these cues for the students and the different tasks. Hey, and if they're, again, just lowering your lights saves energy, but if you're creating a good, comfortable environment, or if you can ready set, especially, you know, K through 12, well, children to adolescents, you can really ready set their behavior for a task, you know, a great win right there. Talking a little bit about horticultural lighting and automation, where, hey, the real tenants will make the argument are the plants, as these tomatoes are flying right here. But horticultural lighting, depending on what plant type you're growing, hey, you're gonna need a lot of mix and match of that, the spectral power distribution. You're gonna need to control temperature, humidity, myriad other factors, the water levels. And there's really been an interesting industry explosion as to what systems can work with what can the real brain of the system be. Is it going to come from the HVAC end? Is it going to come from the lighting end? Is it going to be its own, you know, smart tool that's going to be able to control multiple systems? Or hey, are we going to do everything manually? But again, the more streamlined systems can be, you know, the less factory representatives you need to engage to have your entire site working, the better. And if lighting can control not just the SPD and the light levels, but also listen to humidity, temperature sensors, control the other systems, leverage that system. And ultimately, again, and especially in the cannabis industry, since it's been so controversial for such a long time, and people wanted to understand, hey, what are best practices? How do we program our system? A lot of what people were looking at were just going to YouTube, and it's great that we have people that were going for trial and error, but sometimes, you know, you cannot necessarily consider them your subject matter experts if they're, you know, people that are trialing error and learning as they go. And anyone can put up a video on YouTube. Not that being said, yes, I'm sure there's people that are just incredibly smart and are giving you great advice. But again, that's when implementers can really come in with that subject matter expertise and say, hey, I understand these case studies from reputable sources, and I can help you implement the system in your space to get better results. Let's talk a little bit about hospitality and then what I call a wow factor. Lighting systems can integrate not only with the lighting and temperature, but now with other hospitality key system. Think about your property management system. It can tell you if a room has been bought or sold. So for example, hey, a lighting system integrating with a PMS or property management system can tell you, hey, this nice suite just got purchased, but the guest has not come in the room yet. Let's set up a grand welcome scene. So when they've come in for the first time to their room, we can have their blinds opening, the light level dimming slowly, the temperature is gonna be, you know, ready for them, warm and cozy. Let's have some music playing. You know, that's the wow factor in that hotel room. The lighting systems can also help with what the hospitality industry called GPD, or the guest presence detection algorithm. It is a good way to understand if a guest is in the room, because it not only relies on sensors, but there's a lot of factors that go into is a guest actually in the room. Because if you're sleeping and your sensors or don't necessarily see you and not moving, sensors will turn light off, or will perform certain behavior that you may not want. But some smart lighting systems are really understanding how to ensure that, hey, is someone in the room or not, and they will curtail the lighting and the temperature to the right levels depending if someone is in the room or not. Also, what I see is, hey, that D&D, do not disturb or make a room, rather than having to rely on that little piece of paper or plastic that you put on your door for do not disturb or clean my room. Lighting system can use a wall station to just set this up automatically. And what's even more powerful, let's say in the room, you press that button, hey, I'm about to leave the room, the staff can come in and clean it. That automatically will go to the cleaning staff app that says, ooh, room 101, just the room can be coming and clean, rather than the staff having to go room by room, knocking on doors. Automate that process is such a better experience for the tenants, and a more efficient and streamlined operation for the hotel staff. Another acronym, CELS, Central Electronic Locking Systems. So lighting systems will be able to know, and that's your key card access to the room, or whatever, however you access the rooms in a smart, communicative way. Let's say, hey, a guest comes in the room. Let's make sure that the temperature set points are very close to ensure that people are warm and cozy. But if maybe a staff comes in the room, or a concierge or another hotel staff, we don't necessarily have to drive up the temperature that much. We can save a little bit of those energies. And ultimately, facility professionals can have a whole hotel view, knowing what lights are on, off, the temperature settings for the different rooms, and they can clearly see if there's something wrong with a specific room from one dashboard. Hey, let's talk about smart cities. You can have a plethora of sensors in your street light poles. You're almost gonna think about the pole as a platform. Do you want to implement gunshot detection, humidity sensor, tilt? There's a lot of usability that can come from street lighting. As well as, hey, let's provide a wireless signal, or 5G now on the streetlights, so people on the street really enjoy living in this city. What's been the interesting part of the conversation is, like, who are really the owners or the stakeholders when implementing non-energy benefit technologies on these smart lighting systems? Because, hey, the head of the street lighting departments in most cities may have nothing to do with the head of traffic management or the head of waste management. Or, hey, if you have a gunshot detection sensor, the police department or the fire department. So the real key here is ensuring that you're talking to the right stakeholders, that the metrics, or that what really matters to them is really highlighted, and show, hey, network lighting controls can really impact what you do. Be a recommender, an influencer for this system. And hey, I'm talking about it the entire time, but interfacing with third parties. Lighting systems in the very near future not only going to be able to talk to each other. Hey, my back of house is system A, my front of house is system B. But all of these systems are really developing open APIs to talk to each other, but also your plug loads, your HVAC. Being able to control an entire campus from an iPad is powerful in itself. Data aggregation is becoming much more a key skill needed in the smart building environment. What's very powerful when multiple systems in a building are talking to each other is continuous and almost artificial intelligence way to approach optimization, savings, comfort for the tenants of a space. I want to then to show you guys a little bit of an observed trend where I think the industry is going, where the capabilities and the scope of systems gets exponentially larger, and your interfaces or your dashboards, your control panels continue to stay at a one screen. But hey, I'm talking about connected lighting, going to IoT, going to the IOB, or the Internet of Buildings. You see here the wheel, the left-hand side, these network lighting control, non-energy features, benefits, they are part of this smart building ecosystem. They're just one of the system in the building, even though, hey, we'll ensure there's interoperability. But where I really think that the industry is going is, hey, that smart building is just part of a smart energy environment, that distributed energy resource environment, where your utilities or your the independent service operators or your power providers are overseeing multiple buildings, where each building can be that one smart contact point. And hey, you're seeing that'll be able to integrate with be it renewable power, your electrical vehicles and chargers, smart communities. So hey, watch for the trend. Everything is connected, and the real point is lighting systems and network lighting controls along the LLC technologies can be a good infrastructure that can provide many of these capabilities and integration. This image is provided by the Open ADR Alliance. And Open ADR is a standard that sends very fast communications on different events, energy changing events, as well as pricing events, in the sense that when energy goes back and forth or changes, especially at the power provider view, hey, there is rate information being exchanged. And what I have here, a couple of lighting system manufacturers that are becoming part of this Open ADR Alliance. Hey, we're hip to the standard that is going to be a vehicle to integrate at a community or city level. Worked a little bit on this chart, not going to go through it. What I really want to highlight is, hey, I took a sample size of 5 NLC manufacturers, and from their sell sheets, one good thing to note is, hey, each of these manufacturers has a smart lighting platform. And integration and smart lighting is again a key factor for most lighting manufacturers to go forward on their business model. And what's really important is I'm seeing a lot of these shared features, from your energy monitoring to your APIs, space utilization, asset tracking. And yeah, sure, each manufacturer will have their unique features that really may drive them apart. But my theory is that as time goes on, those unique features will slowly and surely all become shared features across the manufacturers. I know that was a lot of information. I wanted to give a pause for questions here. Katie, anything?
I don't have anything that came in through chat. Just a reminder, if you guys do have a question, find the chat feature and type it out, and it will come to us.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Katie. Hey, what I want to talk about, teamwork makes the dream work. I want to talk about utility and industry resources you can leverage to right-size that message. First and foremost, why do utilities even care about connected lighting, NLC, LLLC? Hey, they can really understand what their total resource costs are, and they'll serve to help that market transformation to more efficient technologies that help that quality of life. Utilities also like to stand out by providing this elite customer service, be it both just customer service, that technical expertise on projects. And ultimately, they know they want to be relevant because they want to serve as that gateway to connected stuff. But ultimately, as you saw that view of the, hey, power provider looking at all their commercial, industrial buildings and EV chargers, they understand that's where the future is going. They want to help navigate that transformation. So just by that nature, a good bet of plugging into your utility is that they will invest on these emerging technologies and help them get implemented. Yeah, they'll have an encyclopedia of implementation knowledge because they see projects coming in and out at a high frequency rate, and they've seen a lot. They can definitely help you understand, hey, what are the right questions I should ask implementers if you're on the owner, facility, professional end, or hey, how can I better implement and communicate how to implement the system if you're more so on that installer contractor side. But regardless of what side or what fence or what category you are, I always recommend every entity should have a utility whisperer. Not necessarily someone that's going like to utility people, but someone that's really understand how the utility operates, what the incentives are, what they're researching, the utility pilots. And I'm going to call out a few of those in a little bit. Starting with, hey, the investment on emerging technologies. Utility like Seattle City Light simplified the approach with prescriptive incentives in the sense that, hey, if you implement NLC or LLLC controls, we can give you an estimate of what your rebate would be because we've studied this much that we have that estimated level of savings in your space. And you'll see at the top right, these are, hey, provisional measures in the sense that if the savings happen to be a lot more, they will really right-size that performance incentive to incentivize, again, a well-optimized lighting system. And hey, if that doesn't convince you enough, the majority, if not all of the larger utilities in the Pacific Northwest have around a $50 to $75 bonus for each fixture that has luminaire level lighting control technology. So imagine how that can add up to ensure that these technologies get added. Just wanted to showcase a couple of entities that are really dedicated, and trust me, there's a lot more that are really dedicated to helping these emerging technologies, non-energy benefits, ultimately, hey, ensure that there are savings there and that there's quality of life for the tenants of these spaces. So hey, you get the handout, check these logos out, see what they're about, and see if they can help you where you're at. Another great resource that I learned about very recently is another effort by the Pacific Northwest National Labs and the Department of Energy called the Integrated Lighting Campaign. They started a campaign on the energy.gov site where they divide people into participants that are people that are implementing projects, they'll have projects going on, as well as supporters such as all these, manufacturers, utilities, energy efficiency organizations that can provide education and awareness on these projects. And the real goal is to share information. And it's a great goal. Hey, share information of how to optimize system implementations. The real end goal necessarily, as we're discussing today, network lighting controls, their real goal is, hey, how to ensure that smart lighting is integrated into the entire smart building. And that's, hey, everything HVAC, plot loads, that building management system. And they're looking to recruit people that just have examples or have really good stories of how these systems have been integrated. And if you have information, want to learn more, or want to provide some help and information, please email that bottom left, integratedlighting@pnnl.gov. To Lighting Design Lab's own horn for a little bit, hey, we, again, are City Light. We are a program of Seattle City Light, and we are a great resource. You can reach out, just like the series, the webinar series that we're doing now. We do a lot of education and market development, but ultimately, hey, we've seen our flagship workshop. We do a hands-on network lighting control trade show, workshop where we, yes, go on a little bit of the theory of controls. We talk about the construction industry. We talk about practical applications, how to navigate sequence of operations. And the funner part is between 2 or 4 network lighting control systems will be at this workshop where you can get to wire a load controller, commission, start up a system, maybe facility representatives there, just, again, manufacturer representatives to facilitate these commissioning hands-on workshops. So if you haven't gone to one, as soon as the world opens, we'll publicize them and we just want you at our workshops. last year, again, alongside NIA, BPA, and oh, one last thing I forgot to mention about our workshop is that utilities usually host this workshop. So again, a good reason to keep plugging into your utilities. As I was saying, last year we developed a video that you can leverage. It's in our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, Lighting Design Lab, we have a Lunera level lighting control video that has a couple of short videos just highlighting the what is it and the benefits of different ways of leveraging Lunera level lighting controls. I've been talking about these the entire webinar. Our best practice guide series. It's 6 individual documents that can be leveraged on our website, lightingdesignlab.com. Sorry, lightingdesignlab.com. Yes. But what I see as a great value from the lab, and not just the lab, but even City Light can provide through their energy advisors, project-specific consultations, so can we, Lighting Design Lab, on connected lighting or lighting project-specific consultations and mockups. We have a great technical staff that has seen a lot, done a lot of experience on different applications. You can always email us and call us these days. And if you have project-specific questions, please reach out. Any questions on some of these resources that you can leverage to help these systems get implemented?
There's not a question on those resources, but a question on if we've got some other resources. It's a good question that Jeff poses. Knowing that there are clearly many benefits beyond cost savings for this technology, are there some statistics on the average usage savings when installed? Is it similar to upgrading from T8s to TLEDs? Is it an extra 5, 10%? So that's the first part of the question. The second part is also, is there a drop in savings over time? I'm assuming, Jeff, you mean you're still talking about usage savings as management changes and the knowledge of what they're actually installed for is lost?
Beautiful question. Two-part question. On the first part, different utilities will have, so let's start this way. The Bonneville Power Alliance, and I'm talking about Pacific Northwest, knowing that this is an online webinar and people may not be from this region, but there are other entities in different regions that do the studies, the calculus, and put in the time to understand what are the estimated savings for specific network lighting control features. And utilities like Seattle City Light leverage the list from Bonneville Power Alliance. They definitely change the numbers to match what Seattle City Light has seen more. And this is just an example. Different utilities do this similarly. And like, hey, just like we had those, I'm not gonna go through this, those estimated savings, that's what we can leverage and call out. And ultimately, those are provisional estimates where if after a product is implemented, it's a better savings, they'll incentivize more. If the savings were not there, they'll look to investigate, hey, why did the savings not get there? But yes, different utilities may have a list of what their estimated savings are. And on the second part, I love that question. That's where, again, that stakeholder, the implementer stakeholder really has to come in and ensure that there is an ongoing relationship with that building customer that they're implementing a project on, in the sense that optimization is the name of the game, rather than oh, the savings left because the facility professionals, there was a lot of turnover, they forgot how to lever the system. But that is when that implementer relationship really comes into play, and saying, hey, after a year after implementation, can we see if you're happy with the system? Can we dim lights a little more in certain spaces? Can we shorten sensor timeouts? How can we optimize the system? Can we add the entire 10 to 12 floors plug loads because we did not get to integrate in that first phase around, and so on and so forth. There's always opportunities to optimize, and more importantly, there are opportunities to, again, flip that switch on and those potential non-energy benefits that you can leverage. All right, so wanted to, again, further simplifying the message. How can we grab the stakeholders' attention? Wanted to go ahead and pull out our final poll for today. In your opinion, what are the top 2 barriers to implement network lighting controls and their non-energy benefits? Pick your top 2 barriers for the implementation of NLC and NEB projects. All right, we have a couple of people voting in. Again, encouraging your participation. And if there's one poll that's important that I really want to ask you, most of you, to participate, it is this poll. Because this is an ongoing question in the sense that, hey, there is no silver bullet, there is no smoking gun that today ensures the implementation of network lighting control systems on a project. You know, the conversation is not, there's not necessarily like a cookie cutter conversation to have, but understanding the barriers are very important in order to know what to talk about. I have over half people that voted, but I'm going to close it out in 10 seconds. Three, two, one, sold. All right, thank you, everybody. And ultimately, I wanted to do this experiment, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But as you see, it's, hey, top 2, and the top 1 has been cost, which, hey, that upfront cost, and we'll address that in a little bit. And then very closely behind is, hey, lack of knowledge or experience implementing these systems. Why did I want to do this exercise? Very recently, a couple of weeks ago, I saw a similar poll on, and it just caught my knowledge where, hey, in a Better Buildings virtual conference, Felipe Leon, Dave Arnold were talking about the integrated lighting campaign. They launched a poll. It was more so, the question was about, hey, implementing lighting with other building systems. But what really made me happy on that poll result was, hey, lack of knowledge was rated almost, you know, 7% higher than cost as a barrier to implementation. Ultimately, knowing that both of these are highly important. So, hey, awareness and education is key to help implement, as well as how to navigate these cost conversations. So what are some of these tools to start for these conversations? It's like, hey, when it comes to lighting, that lighting audit makes that first impression. It's a very key and important step in the sense that it gets you that benchmark of the existing conditions on a building. How much energy is the building actually using? How many lamps and ballasts are they replacing? But ultimately, with a lighting audit, you can tell a story. Once you understand the current use, you can propose, you know, hey, I'll propose TLEDs, or I'll propose retrofit kits, or I'll propose new fixtures with LLLC technology and network lighting control system. And I want to showcase or tell a story of how implementing the latter will really push that building's purpose forward. So really leverage the lighting audit, the conversations, and that's really your conversation starter right there. Another great way to communicate your intent for what a network lighting control system is to do is a sequence of operations. And there's various ways, but ultimately a sequence of operations will highlight the different space types in a building and will identify what NLC features will that space have. In the earlier iterations of developing a project, you can have a simple list like you see on the top right with just X's. And what we really powerful is if these sequences of operations started having columns that really talk about space utilization, indoor positioning, asset tracking, And having that on paper will really start those conversations with various stakeholders as well. And obviously, as time goes by, there's going to be more complex sequences of operations that will have a lot more detail. But again, a very simple way to start getting in front of stakeholders is a simple sequence of operations. What can we say about the user interface experience when it comes to be part of that value proposition? And we'll look about this in two ways, wall stations and commissioning tools. You know, you've heard about that tenant where they, or the different tenants where in the open office, they put these 5 brand new, very aesthetically pleasing wall stations with like 8 buttons each, but they're never touched just because they're, hey, maybe not labeled or not purposefully labeled. And people don't necessarily understand how to operate the lights with this complex control panel. There's a real opportunity to simplify the message to ensure that the implementers have the conversations with the user groups in the building. It's like, hey, this is ultimately for you. You're going to live with this system. How would you like to interface with it? And ultimately, with tenants, that creates buy-in, and it will help influence the implementation of a system. On the other hand, you'll have, for facility professionals, they are the people that, hey, once a system is installed, programmed, the factory representatives will say, hey, facility professional, here you go, and continue maintaining the systems as needed. So again, a more confusing configuration tool can be a detriment, rather than, hey, if you can see a very solid ordinal process that you can fully understand, really drives the point home where a facility professional will have to leverage that system and not have to call the factory tech to reprogram a sensor or a room. Some are still pretty confusing, and some don't even use an app, but the idea is to use the right tool for the right application. For example, that Cree remote, with that one button, you can program a room 75% of the way to exactly where you may want it. And if you have a few rooms with NLC systems and use one, like your quick configuration to have everything up and running really quickly, great way to start it out and go for it. Quick notice to that end, Lighting Design Lab will be doing a study that is going to inform and look to increase the acceptance of users when it comes to wall stations and configuration tools. We're going to be setting up a couple of different scenarios for tenants and facility professionals using these two tools, and have surveys that will help us understand, hey, what are some people's preferences and how can we actually get closer to have that user interface acceptance and improve the user experience. So stay tuned when we will send out in the very near future a call for participants in these studies. Lynn Adler, you had asked a question, hey, what is the role of that manufacturer or the territory rep? So hey, manufacturers, they'll are the ones that are going to have these global industry knowledge. You're working, especially today, with software partners, smart partners. They can help provide that technical advisory. The territory reps, they'll have that regional operational knowledge. They'll know how to get the utility incentives. They'll know which different construction industry entities to work with to get your project there. So they'll help provide that local coordination. And obviously working with both together is very powerful. Different sets of manufacturers or different types of reps will have their own, what we want to call procedural efficiencies that you can really leverage. Everything from like quoting tools, right? If you get like a little bit of information in a quoting tool on your property and the system, it would give you an estimate on cost and give you estimate on different strategies. Hey, how would be the comparison of implementing only zone control NLC or implementing LLLC? So some manufacturers really put a lot of effort and R&D behind leveraging smarter quoting tools such as product development tools. It's like, hey, I've seen some manufacturers use Bluebeam. I've seen some manufacturers develop their own software tool to put a project together, and from that project being able to spit out like your sequence of operations, your one lines, and different types of reports, your control intent. And that really helps drive those conversations, especially when you can show reports to facility professionals as to how the system is going to be laid out. I've seen some reps do really innovative things, such as soon as they have the gear ready for a project, they'll package it per room, per floor of a building. They'll paste the one line into each box as to how everything's going to be working together. Some manufacturers, if you put your ducks in a row correctly, will prepare everything together. They'll maybe pre-commission some things. So implementers leverage that procedural efficiency. One quick point to make, when you hear that phrase value engineering, it's not value, it's not engineering. If you see that image, what really looks like great cost savings in the beginning at implementation and specifically at post-install maintenance can really increase those costs if not done correctly. Calling out that many building contractors usually upsells, but electrical contractors are notorious for like, oh, I can do this a lot cheaper if you don't use a retrofit kit and you use lamps, but then a lot of that quality is lost. True value engineering should add upfront costs because you're not supposed to just look at that simple payback and upfront costs, and we're actually going to talk about that in a little bit. You should look at the lifetime of the system because that building's not going anywhere, and NLC systems today can last 10, 15, 20 plus years. We're getting to our last section. Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you very much. Last section, we have a little bit of that financial conversation, money talks. I just mentioned, hey, simple payback is a good, easy way to calculate, hey, these are the cost of our system. We can reduce a little bit of them with the rebates and with the energy savings and the maintenance savings. You're not going to have to replace lamps and ballast so often. You can understand how many years will the system pay for itself, and that's a great measure, but nowhere near does it tell the whole story of a lifetime cycle cost analysis. Where this a longer class, we actually delve into how we can tell that story. But for now, what my call to action is going to be is be creative in telling that story for the life of the system, taking into account all the factors and even the non-energy benefits, whether you can quantify them or whether they cannot be quantified, but simply make that built environment a whole lot comfortable and efficient. Through this chart, but very important when you're talking about a life cycle story is that you appeal to the financial metrics that are relevant to the customer. Do they want to know that return on an investment? Do they really want to know the net present value, or what is this NLC system project worth today, even if it spans 10 years? So very important to tie into the financial metrics of those owners and facility professionals and ultimately the decision makers. Talk about, right postage and right address. How can we communicate the financials in a very clear way that's most impactful? Just in the interest of time, I'm going to breeze through a few of these final slides. We're almost done, I promise everybody. But hey, a couple of key points for one-page proposals that will have all the appendixes that'll tell the detailed story. But hey, use non-authoritarian language in the third person. Want to prioritize benefits, and those benefits both quantifiable and non-quantifiable. Hey, we're improving security, saving energy, lowering operating costs. And if you can throw one or two impactful numbers behind that, best way to go about it. If stakeholders talked about specific purposes they wanted to meet, make sure you talk about it and highlight those targets. I saw that, hey, most people did say cost was one of these barriers on implementing NLC systems. Hey, energy efficiency as a service or lighting as a service is a good new business model that is coming online where the provider of the service will own the purchasing the material, the maintenance, the commissioning, installing everything. And from the realized savings, that's when you're gonna do that monthly or periodic subscription payment to the system until it's paid off. Seattle City Light actually recently started their energy efficiency as a service pilot, where if you see on the left-hand image, they'll implement a system or retrofit measures for a project, and likely there's going to be some savings, which is that green smaller bar. What happens? The customer is going to stay bill neutral. So they're not necessarily going to pay less, they're going to just pay what they would pay without those savings. But from those savings is how those new systems or those new retrofit measures are going to be paid for until their payment is done. And then the customer can have a new system and then really lower that energy bill once the system is paid off. Top right is an article from the renewable energy world where, hey, they're calling out City Light doing their one of their pilots with the Bullitt Center. Good article, good read. Please check it out. Lastly, from our federal government, they have the tax deduction 179D. If you go and check out how to apply for it and how to get it, you can get up to $1.80 per square foot for each space that's going beyond the ASHRAE code on lighting power density. Last couple of slides. Hey, make sure that regardless of what side of the fence you sit on, you discuss the cost of waiting. Hey, it's very possible that utility funding runs out if you're looking to implement a project and wait too long. You want to ensure that owners know, hey, you're overspending on energy and your facility professionals on that maintenance labor. So you can continue to overspend. You can continue to have a system that's nearing that end of life. So there's a real cost of wait to implement NLC systems, so make sure that is part of the conversation. One last resource I wanted to make you all aware of is the Trade Ally Network Northwest. They're a great resource that helps implement projects and also provides a lot of education and awareness on both HVAC and lighting. Every year they publish a guide that has great lighting tips, great HVAC tips, and they have even sections such as like, hey, if people are talking to you about I don't have the budget for an upgrade or I just want the cheapest options, they even have pages dedicated in their guide to how to drive those conversations. If you click on the logo on the bottom right, you'll get to that page as well. Any final questions as we drive out of here?
Yeah, we just had one last question. Are some utilities offering or thinking about offering an NLC commissioning incentive to manufacturers, reps to increase their motivation to participate in the sales process?
Not that I have heard of, but not a bad idea. So I'm going to take that idea and ask a few questions to some fun people, and maybe we'll get back to you. But thank you for the question and the note. Everybody, it's been fun. Hope jokes were not too bad. Hopefully everyone got a little bit of something from the presentation. And now I'm going to give this back to Katie in a few words from the lab.
All right, thank you, Armando. Thank you to everyone for attending today and hanging in with us with a little bit of mic difficulty early on. And if you enjoyed today's events, take a look at what our upcoming events are. I think they're on the next slide, Armando. Yep, there they are, available on our website. If you're a subscriber to our newsletter, they're in the newsletter as well. They're about every 2 weeks. And here's some contact information for Armando. The slide deck and link to the recording of today's presentation will be online, both in our education page and under the resources page, probably in the next couple of days. And although we are operated by Seattle City Light and City Light employees, the Lighting Design Lab gets great support from Bonneville Power Administration, Chelan County PUD, Tacoma Power, Idaho Power, and Snohomish County PUD this year to bring some of the programming to you. And that is all. When you click out of this webinar, a survey will come up so you can give us some feedback, ideas, suggestions, any extra questions that you thought of. Go ahead and write us at lightingdesignlab@seattle.gov or Armando's email. And again, thank you, and maybe we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Have a good day.